It's the result that Europe feared. The Greek people have made their choice. Threatened with economic disaster, Greece said a resounding no to austerity.
I'm very proud of Greek people. We don't want to be slaves.
It has been an extraordinary week.
We have to say no because there is no other way for Greece.
Ναι στην Ευρώπη, ναι στο ευρώ. Ναι στην Ευρώπη, ναι στο ευρώ.
And Panorama was there with the people making history.
It's like living in a reality show. You don't know what you're going to wake up to.
We hear how politicians ignored warnings and piled on the debt.
The politicians wanted to build up their careers on public debt. This is wrong.
There have already been big changes since last night's historic no vote. The Greek finance minister has gone. Could the euro as we know it go next?
Greece returning to the drachma or to any other parallel currency would be catastrophic for the economy.
I started my week in Greece in one of the country's most popular tourist resorts. It's high season on the island of Rhodes.
This is the Greece that most of us know and love. It's hot, it's pretty, and the people are friendly. And every year, hundreds of thousands of Brits come to Greek beaches like this.
It may not look like it, but Greece is in crisis. This is a country running out of money. Its government is on a collision course with Europe.
We should back Greece. I believe this euro is rubbish. It's rubbish. It's ruined Greece.
I feel a little bit sorry for them, to be honest, but I think part of the problem is they created it themselves.
They are genuinely, worried, and yet obviously they're trying to put on a brave face for the tourists.
And the people who live and work here don't know what the future holds for their country.
Are you worried? What's going through your head right now?
Shall I say what I feel,
yes.
What I think? It's the future of my kids and my grandkids. And I'm fighting just for that future.
Kostas Syros has run a taverna in Rhodes Old Town for 22 years. He is terrified that this crisis might push Greece out of the euro.
All the things we use, all what we eat is important. The tomatoes, the lemons, the potatoes, the onions, anything is important. The meat is important. With which money, with what money we shall buy them? I dream that we are out of Europe and I wake up terrified and I say, no, sleep again. No, that didn't happen, it was a bad dream.
In Athens, the financial crisis is deepening. It's devastating the lives of ordinary Greeks, and I'm going to spend time with some of them.
Καλημέρα. Έφερα τα πράγματα. Πάω στην κουζίνα.
Maria is a single mum who lives outside Athens in the port town of Piraeus. She and her 2 children depend on this charity for food and other basics.
Είναι περισσότερο απορρυπαντικό για τα ρούχα.
She works a couple of hours a week cleaning and earns €40 a month, just over £7 a week.
Δέσποινα, θέλω να δω αν σου έρχονται αυτά τα παπούτσια. Παίρνεις κάποιο επίδομα? Όχι. Κανένα. Έπαιρνα το επίδομα προστάτευτων μελών, το οποίο μου το κόψανε.
Maria can't afford her rent, but for now her landlady is letting her stay. Her electricity was cut off 6 weeks ago. She keeps her fridge going by connecting it up to her neighbour's supply.
How long can you go on like this?
We can't go on like this. We need to find a solution. I am looking for a job, but no one hires me either because I am too old or divorced or because I have children. So one way or another, I am doomed.
Greece doesn't have a good welfare system. It doesn't have a good health system. It doesn't have any unemployment benefit system to speak of. Therefore, that means poverty.
We're seeing things in Greece this week that you wouldn't expect in a European capital. The country has started to run out of money. Banks have had to close.
Σιγά που θα σου δώσει 280 εδώ.
Μια μούτσα σίγουρα.
100%.
Μια μούτσα σίγουρα.
These pensioners have been here since 5 a.m. The government told some banks to open for one day, but only so those without cash cards could get some of their pension out. They're not happy. Over the last few years, older people have been hit hard. Some have seen big cuts in their pensions, and the worry is it could get worse. Today they were promised they could get 120 euros out.
Αυτά τα λεφτά είναι λεφτά ζητιανιάς. Έχουμε χάσει την αξιοπρέπειά μας.
But inside, Babis discovers it's even worse than he expected.
Περίμενα μία ώρα και πήρα 60 ευρώ. Όταν πήγα στην τράπεζα και πήρα 60, αύριο θα μου πούνε 20, μετά αύριο θα μου πούνε τελείως. Τέρμα. Τελειώσαμε. Δεν πάει καλά. Δεν πάει καλά. Δεν διαπραγματεύεται καλά. Δεν μιλάει με τους δανειστές, να τα βάλει κάτω και να τα βρει. Και θα ψηφίσω μεγάλο ναι. Ναι στην Ευρώπη. Ναι στην Ευρώπη, ναι στο ευρώ. Ναι στην Ευρώπη, ναι στο ευρώ. Τελείωσε.
For everyone else in Greece, cash withdrawals have been limited to 60 euros a day. Now this crisis is all to do with a row over a rescue package or bailout offered by Europe for the Greek economy. Greece has already been bailed out twice.
The bailout is put together by the European Central Bank, the European Commission and the International Monetary Fund.
This so-called troika has dominated life here since the first bailout in 2010. Greece has been given 250 billion euros so far. In return, it was told to slash its spending, but the result was devastating.
They cut wages and that affected demand in the economy as a whole. They've cut spending by the government, they cut down on investment, they increased taxes. About a third of adults and more than half of young people are without a job.
By January of this year, many Greeks had had enough. They elected a radical left-wing party, Syriza, led by this man, Alexis Tsipras.
Η Ελλάδα αφήνει πίσω της τη λιτότητα της καταστροφής. Αφήνει πίσω της τον φόβο και τον αυταρχισμό. Αφήνει πίσω της μια πενταετία ταπείνωσης και οδύνης.
His promise to push back against austerity, but he's got a problem. The country now needs a third bailout, and that would mean more cuts. The government says it was elected to stand up to German Chancellor Angela Merkel and other European leaders who it says are forcing unacceptable levels of austerity on Greece.
The way I see it, all nations and the British can understand this very well. Sometimes they put their national and their personal pride above all, instead of financial figures or if they are suffering. There is a red line on how much pressure and insults society can take.
So with this bailout, the government said the people should decide. A referendum, yes to accept the deal offered by Europe, cuts and all, or no to support the government and push back against austerity. And both sides have taken to the streets.
That's the key word here, orgy. That means no. This campaign is all about no. And it's summed up by the big sign down there at the end. And that says, we don't owe our lives to the lenders.
Theodosis has joined thousands of others saying no to more austerity.
I can't stand it anymore. I'm here because I want to do something for a future of my children. Because their future, I don't see it very well.
Hey, Theo.
Hi, Richard.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Went to see Theodosis at the home he shares with his wife and 2 children. He lost his sales job 4 years ago.
What's that time like been for you? How's it affected you and your family?
Like an Armageddon come and hit my house and hit me. I have sit and cry a lot of times, because when your child comes and say to you, I want you, Father, take me this, and it's very cheap, okay, it has 50 cents, €1, and you don't have this euro to buy it, and you say always no, no, no. It's a very big hit in your heart.
He says things will only get better if Greece is given more time to pay off its debts.
Look, the debt of Greece is very big. I need to give me some years so I can breathe. So people like me who are on unemployment can find a job, work, pays his taxes, and the government will pay the debt.
I met a lot of people who feel like Theodosis. So what went wrong? Well, it wasn't what people expected back in 2002 when Greece started using the euro. It said goodbye to the drachma and became the 12th country in the eurozone.
Well, there were a lot of benefits because in Greece we had a currency which was not very strong. So we lived through very big inflations. The currency went up and down. There was no stability. So for us, joining the euro from the very first moment was an extremely important decision.
Greece was so keen to join the club and the members so keen to have them that the country's finances were never properly scrutinised.
In hindsight, letting Greece in was a mistake. I mean, at the beginning, it was not so clear that Greece was not fit at that time for the euro. But the reason for that, or at least the most important reason for that, is that the Greeks just cheated on their accounts. So they did not let anybody else understand how dire their debt and deficit situation was at the time.
Greece revealed in 2009 that the gap between what it earns and what it spends was 4 times as much as the EU allowed, and it had massaged the numbers. This man knows all about keeping the books balanced. Nikolaos Gavrilis has been running this factory making Greek desserts since 1982. He says everyone could get easy credit after Greece joined the euro. Businesses, individuals and governments. The country soon became addicted to debt, so it has to be yes to pay back what they owe.
The EU gave the Greeks a lot of money, and the Greeks did not know how to handle it. This way, the EU created a spoilt child. And when this child reached the age of 35, he was told that everything has to change and be done in a different way.
Greece was living beyond its means. Tax evasion was costing €10 billion a year, and public spending was high. some could retire on a full pension at 58.
But successive governments failed to control the borrowing, as a former insider told me.
We increased debt all the time in order to pay social security programs, in order to increase the public sector. And this created this huge amount of debt. We did say to the government, but they never listened. The politicians wanted to build up their careers on public debt. This is wrong.
By the mid-2000s, Greek debt was already very high. Then the world hit the financial buffers, and Greece was now in serious trouble. So to get the bailouts it needed, it had to agree to massive spending cuts. But it didn't deliver on other key demands, like making the government more efficient.
There was a lot of belt-tightening, mainly because the structural reforms that would bring growth and would make the economy more competitive were never implemented. And so the entire adjustment has come through belt-tightening.
Even though people were suffering from the austerity cuts, the debt kept rising. The recession got deeper.
You were part of the team that negotiated the 2010 bailout. Do you think you bear any blame for what's happening now?
Yes, we do, because we didn't face the situation strictly and saying the truth from the very beginning. We tried to let's say, to hide the realities and not to take the necessary measures because they were too painful.
And today, Greece is completely divided over whether or not to take these painful measures. Those voting yes may not like austerity, but are in favour of the bailout. They're worried that no might mean Greece out of the euro.
I feel that I belong in Europe. All Greeks belong to Europe.
We are Europeans, and I don't like to be outside of Europe.
Today is my birthday. Normally I would have planned to go for drinks with people from work, but we're all here. And I don't think I'm going for drinks because it doesn't make sense to spend money because money's not coming.
Daphne lived in the UK for 4 years, but came back to Greece and 3 months ago started up her own business. She hates what this Greek government is doing to her country.
The banks are closed. People cannot import stuff. The courts are closed. I withdrew 500 euros last Friday. I've been very careful how I spend it.
Daphne plans to vote yes. She's terrified that the Greek economy will be destroyed if it's forced out of the euro.
It's like living in a reality show. You don't know what you're going to wake up to. You have to watch the news all day long. I try to stay calm. And I'm a very emotional person, so yeah. I'm hoping for the best, and I really think that the people on Sunday are going to vote yes.
In some ways, the yes-no campaign reflects divisions that have been in Greece for a long time. So many of those with money and property are choosing yes and Europe because they think it will protect them. Now, those voting no realise it comes with a risk, but a large proportion of them feel they've got nothing to lose. Back on Rhodes, Kostas watches Prime Minister Tsipras tell the nation a no vote doesn't mean no to the euro.
Σε περίπτωση θέλω να διαβεβαιώσω τον ελληνικό λαό ότι η σταθερή πρόθεση της κυβέρνησης είναι η επίτευξη συμφωνίας με τους εταίρους, με όρους όμως βιωσιμότητας και προοπτικής.
Μαλάκα. It's all a bit too much for Kostas.
It's completely Greece. Is it? It's the same.
How do you feel after what you've just heard?
Very upset. and I'm afraid of my future. He does say, vote no. And the Europeans say that you have not any agreement with us now, you are out of any agreement, we shall make a new agreement, heavier, much heavier.
Now, Greece makes its living from tourism, but this week people started to turn away. Bookings have dropped. That's not good for Rhodes, and many Greek islands stand to lose their special reduced tax status if this bailout is agreed. Michalis and his family run a tourist boat. They say life is already hard enough.
We estimate something like 10% lower tourism up until now. But the thing is that we pay more and more for our business. It's tougher and tougher every year.
Has austerity killed other businesses like yours? Have others gone under?
A lot of them.
But despite the uncertainty of this week, Michalis says he thinks Greece can survive out of the euro.
I mean, the last few governments of Greece, what we believe is that they didn't try at all. At least this Prime Minister is trying to get something out of the European Union.
So even a small community like Rhodes is divided. An entire nation is considering a step into the unknown. The future of Greece and Europe boils down to one day's voting in a referendum no one saw coming.
Who do you think is responsible for the chaos that Greece faces now?
Primarily Mr. Tsipras. He had the opportunity to get a better deal for Greece back in January when he was elected, but he blew it out of incompetence and lack of preparedness and dogmatism. So now we have chaos.
Many Greeks see it differently. They don't trust European leaders, particularly the Germans. They think that the bailout money isn't for the Greek economy, but is to repay German bank loans.
Much of the bailout money Greece has received has gone back to the banks which lent it money before the financial crash in 2008. It's like taking out a loan to pay off your credit card.
Remember that Germany is the biggest lender to Greece, something like 60 to 65% of Greek debt is held by German institutions. But Merkel doesn't want to be, or at least I hope she doesn't want to be known as the European politician who destroyed the whole project of European unity.
The euro was supposed to bring countries closer together. Some EU leaders have been saying if Greece votes no, runs out of money and can't pay its debts, Greece will be out of the euro. Greek ministers say that's blackmail.
So 2 days to go until the vote, and this is probably the last big no rally in the centre of Athens. And it certainly seems to be the biggest crowd we've had.
Say the truth! We believe that it's a historical moment for Greece. We have to say no because there is no other way for Greece.
We are here to listen to our Prime Minister, see what he's got to say. And of course, we've got to stand with him against austerity.
The Prime Minister ramps up the war of words.
Σήμερα γιορτάζουμε και τραγουδάμε για να ξεπεράσουμε το φόβο, να ξεπεράσουμε τους εκβιασμούς. Σας καλώ την Κυριακή να γυρίσετε την λάμπη σε αυτούς τους ανθρώπους για τον καθημερινά. Πώς θα γράψει ιστορία. Ναι, στα όνειρα των παιδιών μας.
Across the city, yes supporters are at the Olympic Stadium.
Λέμε απόψε ένα ναι, ένα μεγάλο αποφασισμένο ναι.
We are really worried that if we exit the Europe, it will be complete and utter chaos for Greece and the death of democracy.
What would life be like for Greece outside the euro?
It would be a catastrophe. Let me make one thing clear. Nobody can throw out Greece out of the euro. But we ourselves would be obliged to go outside the euro because we would need to print another currency because there is no money there. It would be a catastrophe for generations to come.
Is Mr. Tsipras a brilliant strategist, or is he Europe's worst diplomat?
Mr. Tsipras, he has values, and he's one of the few, if not the only Prime Minister, who has kept his promises to the Greek people, even though it had a political cost.
After one of the most turbulent weeks in recent Greek history, yesterday the polls finally opened. Yanis Varoufakis, the finance minister, and a man disliked by some European leaders, seemed to sense it might be a good day.
It's quite astonishing, isn't it, that our decision to take this matter to the people and let them decide has been considered to be too radical and too problematic. That, I think, tells us something about the European Union.
And Greece didn't have long to wait. Nearly 2/3 of those who voted said no. Theodosis headed straight into central Athens to celebrate.
Things are changing now. We started today from Greece. We continue tomorrow to England, to the whole world. This is what the message is sending today.
But there was bitter disappointment for many on the yes side, like Daphne.
I was hoping for a strong yes. It was my opinion that a strong yes would be perceived favorably by our European partners. I'm just hoping that they manage to bring us half a good result as they're promising, for the good of the people.
Although the government won, Europe secured a victory of its own. When European leaders gather tomorrow, Yanis Varoufakis won't be there. He resigned, saying he'd been told he wasn't welcome at the negotiations.
So you're proud of what you've achieved? Well, we haven't achieved anything yet. We're in the process. It's always a process, isn't it?
So the Greek government sacrificed one of its own ministers, and the fate of the euro still hangs in the balance. But the whole of Europe has been forced to listen to the people of Greece.
As a new recruit goes on patrol, a detective close to retirement faces his final case, the Met, next. And having turned his life around, BBC 3 follows one boxer's bid to become featherweight champion of the world.